The Akira class is a well-rounded cruiser developed during the aftermath of the disastrous Battle of Wolf 359 and seeing service from the late 2360s onwards. The ship has a length of 464 meters, is 316 meters wide, and 87 meters tall. With a crew of roughly 500, the ship's cruising speed is roughly warp factor 8, while her maximum speed is warp factor 9.99. The Akira is armed with 10 phaser arrays and typically 2 torpedo launchers, while some experimental versions of the class have fitted as many as 15 smaller, non-burst fire launchers and a chain reaction pulsar weapon, though this is not standard to production variants of the class. The Akira dates back to a project in the years prior to the Battle of Wolf 359, just after first contact with the Collective had been made. In this period, Starfleet was anxiously pondering over ways to combat the Borg's adaptive capability, and it was thought that a ship armed with a massive number of torpedo launchers would be able to rapidly overwhelm and overcome this capability. Studies produced a range of proposed designs, and the program itself was part of a larger Starfleet effort to build a fleet of anti-Borg starships. What would become the Akira, then known as the torpedo cruiser, had only limited progress made before Starfleet fought the Borg at Wolf 359, with disastrous results. After the battle, several reports indicated the flaws to the original torpedo cruiser concept, as during the fight the cube had encountered and sustained hundreds of torpedo strikes, with only minimal apparent damage inflicted. However, the work which had been put into the design had progressed far enough that Starfleet did not want to waste the work put into it, instead repurposing the design into a mid-sized combat-orientated cruiser. Dubbed Akira with the ordering of the first of class in 2367, the new cruiser began entering service with the fleet from 2369 onward. Initially, a handful of the originally intended torpedo-centric designs would enter service. However, these ships were kept largely within the Federation core as a reserve force in the event of a renewed Borg invasion, with production shifting fairly quickly to the conventional designs. Thanks to the space freed up by the removal of the torpedo magazines and launchers in the saucer, the standard Akira design, which entered production, had considerable space devoted to a large hangar complex. With the already extensive aft shuttle bay supplemented by an even larger complex located along the saucer section's leading edge, and extending quite a distance back into the main hull. The space available quickly saw the Akira-class ships placed into the role of carrier for the new Peregrine-class fighter, launching their complement of these ships prior to the battle, and then participating in the fight as a typical cruiser. The Dominion War quickly shined a light on the Akira-class's capable and highly adaptable design. Akiras served throughout the conflict in almost every major battle of the war, earning a fearsome reputation in Starfleet, with many fleet commanders appreciating the ship's mixture of fighter-carrying capacity, a major deficiency of Starfleet in the period, and the ship's own impressive combat capability. The handful of torpedo-focused ships commissioned that did see combat during the war were found not to function well during set-piece fleet battles, where the close proximity of friendly and enemy ships often found themselves in did not lend itself to mass torpedo volleys, as it was too difficult to not strike friendly ships, due to the spread of the torpedo volleys the ships fired. However, in longer-ranged engagements, the ships were found to perform well enough, though not sufficiently enough to lead to further production orders of this variant. In the post-war, the Akira remains in production and is slated to largely replace the vast number of Excelsior-class ships remaining in service. Several variants of the design are currently in service, with some of the latest examples being a dedicated through-deck carrier, sensor picket and communication ships, and an experimental cloaked version that is very secret, though it has been exposed by the Federation press. It is expected that the Akira will remain in widespread service well into the 25th century. With its origins in the anti-Borg Starfleet, the Akira class has gone on to have an impressive record in the conflicts Starfleet and the Federation find themselves in during the 2370s. The unorthodox-looking vessel has earned the trust and respect of its crews, as well as the Federation that it proudly serves.